All right, West Virginia fans. Was not planning on doing another video today. I put one out earlier today and was going to let that one ride, but so much breaking news happened today that I felt like I needed to come out with a different video to talk about what was talked about today and some of the breaking news. So, in case you missed it, I put out an earlier video that I recorded last night, and it was where do we go from here? What are the 5 lingering questions around the West Virginia football team, and where do we go from here? And I had 5 questions that I wanted to get answered, and 2 of those questions have now gotten answered today, right? So in this video, we're going to break down some of the breaking news that occurred around the West Virginia football program. It was truly a bittersweet day around the program. Some good news, some bad news, and now the season is going to take an interesting turn leading into rivalry week. So let's get into it. Before we start, if you're a Mountaineer fan, please like and subscribe to the show. Each day the subs have been going up. We've been building towards that 400 number. So if we can get there soon, that'd be great. I appreciate all the people that have watched all the shows so far. And if you're new to the show, subscribe to the show. We like to have a lot of fun here, and like I said, we're Mountaineer fans. We got to stick together as we get through these times. So let's break down the news that occurred today. So you see it here out. Really, really tough news for these 2 players, Jaden Bray and Jahiem White. So unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that both these guys were ruled out the rest of the season. Jahiem White with a knee injury, and then Jaden Bray with the same foot that kept him out last year. It sounds like White is going to have surgery tomorrow. Just, your heart breaks for these guys because they're 2 guys that have done everything right since they've been in the program, right? Jahiem White is a guy that has been a Mountaineer and stayed a Mountaineer. I'm sure he had different options going into the season, especially when your coach leaves. And I'm sure he was definitely hearing things on social media, but he ultimately decided to stick with the Mountaineers. So the fact that things were looking so promising for him, and I think his best year was in front of him, and it's over before you even play a Power 4 game, is just really disappointing. And I feel so bad for him because you saw him in the offseason, right? He changed his body, and he had a lot of positive momentum. He wasn't splitting carries with CJ. It really was his show, and now it's over before the big games even start. So just really unfortunate, especially everyone saw the hit that happened to him. So just really unfortunate for Jahiem White. We hope that he gets better. And hopefully this is not the last time that we see Jahiem White in a West Virginia uniform. I hate to say that, but in this day of NIL and transfer portal, you just never know the last time that you're going to see these guys in a uniform. I mean, look at Traylon Ray last year, right? Traylon Ray is a guy that had a pretty gruesome injury, and then he ended up transferring to Ole Miss in the offseason. So hopefully that's not the case with Jahiem. Hopefully he sees the future is bright here with Rich Rodriguez, and they have a plan for him, but you just never know. So that's for the offseason, though, so we just wish that he gets well. And let's talk about Jaden Bray, another tough loss for West Virginia. My heart really breaks for him because, again, he's a guy that said all the right things, and he's a guy that sticked with the program, and he didn't bounce and bail after one season that was disappointing and with the injuries, So to see him go through this is really challenging because he's a nice guy off the field, it seems like. He says all the right things in the interview. The weird thing is his best game in Milan Postcar Stadium was in an Oklahoma State uniform, right? He caught a touchdown in that game and made some big plays, and we never got to see him shine yet in a West Virginia uniform. So I hope that he's another one that decides to come back next year because I think his best football is in front of him, and he's just a guy that just has really extremely bad luck in these situations. So it is really tough to see these guys that are out. They're both counted on this year, right? I mean, Jahiem White was by far your most explosive player on offense and a guy that the offense ran around, and not having him is going to be a huge loss. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And then Jaden Bray looked like to be the second wide receiver number 2, right? I mean, he went to Big 12 media days to represent the Mountaineers. He made good impressions on both staffs. And before he even gets to really shine and break out, he's gone, right? When we're as fans, and we know that injuries are always part of the game, right? But to have your players, when you envision them before the season, right? You don't picture them being out for the season. You picture them making big plays in a Mountaineer uniform. So it was extremely disappointing to hear that news. I kind of saw that coming though, based on the injuries and based the way they came off the field getting carted off. So you knew it wasn't pretty good. And then today kind of confirmed that. So, I hope these guys well. I hope they have good recoveries. I hope they're back in Mountaineer uniforms next year. But we have to move on without those guys. So a few weeks ago, I actually did a video about the blueprint of what West Virginia needed to do to have a successful season. And one of them was to stay healthy. And unfortunately, that is not the case as of today. So look at last year. This is a slide I made a few weeks ago, but look at the notable injuries that we had last year. And this is a big reason why we went 6-7, right? Jaden Bray last year was injured. Aubrey Burks only played in 4 games. Eddie V injured after the week 2. Garrett Green was banged up, missed multiple games. Aiden Garnes, Wyatt Milo was banged up. Preston Fox nearly retired after the season. And then Traylon Ray. So, going back to this, you talk about the injuries that happened last year, and then you look at some of the injuries this year. Man, it just really stinks. And again, I know that injuries are a part of football, but the fact that this came down today was really tough to swallow for a Mountaineer fan, and didn't help after a disappointing loss. But now we need to move forward, right? And there's nothing that you can do about it. All you can do is control what you can control. And there's going to be opportunities now for some guys to shine that haven't had the opportunity yet in the first 2 games. And all these guys that are on the screen can play. Let's start with Jeffrey Weimer, a guy that you didn't know was going to be eligible until a week before the season. He caught 75 balls last year at Idaho State. It's time for him to get some reps and to step up, right? If Jaden Bray is not there, he could be a guy that they're going to look to this season. Preston Fox, a guy that has been in the program who looked really good in special teams in week 1. When Preston Fox has had an opportunity to play receiver, he's been pretty reliable. Even against teams like Penn State, he's made some nice plays against those guys. He had a good Houston game a few years ago. He has sure hands. He's a gritty guy that has stick to the program. This might be an opportunity for Preston Fox to step up when the team really needs him and be in that role. And then Justin Smith-Brown, a guy that caught 56 balls at South Carolina State. The only play that we saw of him so far is that fumble in week 1, but he's ready to redeem himself. Rich Rodriguez had his weekly radio show tonight, and he mentioned these 3 guys as possible guys that can get more reps that need to step up. And it's not only just the guys at receiver here. Oren Singleton and Rodney Gallagher and Hamilton and some of those guys that haven't shined yet. Clock is kind of ticking. I know it's only been 2 games, but it's only a 12-game season, and I'm looking for these guys to make plays. So you can't dwell on Jaden Bray not being there. We brought in a ton of guys at wide receiver, and we constantly say that we have 80 guys that can play, and we want to rotate in 80 guys. It's time to see that happen. It's time for the next man to step up. You can't hang your head and feel sorry for yourself going into the Pitt week. You need to have these guys step up and be ready to play. So it is their time to step up and see what they have, and I'm sure if they get the opportunity, they're going to want to shine because they came here for a reason. They left good situations, right? Jeffrey Weimer, 75 balls caught. He's coming here and taking a risk to come to Morgantown because he thinks he can play. Justin Smith-Brown caught 56 balls. Like I said, he's coming to Morgantown to play, not ride the bench. So now is the time to do it and do it on a big stage versus a rival. And then at running back, right? We kind of mentioned this over the last few weeks, right? I think, in my opinion, with Jahiem White out, the 2 guys on the screen should be your go-to guys at running back. Ty Edwards, a guy that put up over 1,000 yards at Northern Iowa. He's a big physical back that has burst. It's time to get him on the field. We desperately need some juice in the backfield, and he can provide that. And then you have Sincere Bowers, a guy that ran a 4.340 that in the first game of the season had burst and found the end zone pretty quickly. I know it was against Robert Morris, but he really popped off the screen. So you can have like a thunder lightning combination with those 2 guys. You need to do it. But being truthful though, unless the offensive line blocks for these guys, it's not going to matter, right? So we can say all we want, how bad we want them in there, but unless the offensive line drastically improves, it's not going to matter. So hopefully these guys take the most of the opportunity, but they can only do so much, right? There's only so much that these 2 dudes can do for the Mountaineers. All right. So let's talk about the next thing, and that is the good news today. And the good news today was Jimmori Robinsin is cleared and ready to go to play. There is an acclimation period, but it seems like the Pitt game is going to be what's circled on the calendar to get him on the field. We could definitely use some good news. I mean, he's a beast off the edge. He besides, Fred Perry, he's probably the best defensive player that we're going to have. So it's important, right? It's important that we have him. So we'll take him. He needs to start fast, though. It can't be, a 2 or 3 week thing where we're kind of getting his feet wet. He needs to ball out right away for the West Virginia Mountaineers. So we're happy to have Jimmori Robinsin. It's been long overdue. I felt like this really dragged out. The news came out at Big 12 Media Days that this guy was possibly not going to be eligible, and then it went on to the season even after the other guys were cleared. But now, finally today, we got some good news on him. I'm excited to see him in a West Virginia uniform. Hopefully he can provide a spark for the defense, and hopefully he's making Eli Holstein's day miserable on Saturday. Some other news, Noel Devine's son, his youngest son, was offered by Miami, and he was also offered by the West Virginia Mountaineers today. So Noel Devine Jr. said he's blessed to receive his second Division I offer from West Virginia University. So we would love to keep these legacy guys in Morgantown, right? I know it's not going to work out with Chris Henry because he's so good that Ohio State is not going to let him go. But if we can see a Noel Devine Jr. wearing a 7 jersey in Morgantown, that would definitely be pretty sweet. So look out for that. He's only in 8th grade. So I know Noel Devine tweeted, "Surreal moment. My son Noel received a second offer from my alma mater where I coach now. And the same coach who offered me at a high school. Proud is an understatement. First 8th grader coach ever offered." So he's an 8th grader, so he has a lot of time before he hits Morgantown. I'm sure he's going to get other offers, but be on the lookout for Noel Devine's son, Noel Devine Jr. Maybe we can see him running for touchdowns in Morgantown in years to come. Other news that came out this week or today, the time is set for the Kansas game, so it's a 6 o'clock kick. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1. Kansas, they kind of have a nice situation with their schedule leading into this game. I believe they have a bye week this week, so they get a chance to rest and get a home game versus West Virginia, where we're going to be playing a dogfight game, an emotionally charged game on Saturday versus Pitt, and then have to go on the road to Kansas. So that will be an interesting spot for West Virginia, but the time is set for that one. And truthfully, I know if you guys are like me, you're not even worried about that one yet. You are looking at Saturday to get another spark and hopefully turn this thing around, right? If we can turn this thing around Saturday and possibly get a win, it would change the direction of the program for the better and maybe get us some momentum. So you have to be a little optimistic. We can't hang our head after 1 week and say this is over. So hopefully the team can turn it around. Speaking of turnarounds, I want to look back real quick at this game right here. The 2013 season. Now, the 2013 season was one of the most miserable West Virginia teams I've ever seen. They only won 4 games, but I want to highlight this sequence of events that happened because I think there's a lot to take from what happened 12 years ago. Okay, so if you remember, West Virginia played Maryland on September 21st, 2013 at a neutral site game in Maryland. Neutral site because the game was, in Maryland and Baltimore. But West Virginia, that was the most miserable game I think I've ever seen. I think it was actually worse than what we saw Saturday. We got absolutely exposed on national television by Maryland, 37-0. I believe Ford Childress started that game. It was when we had the merry-go-round with quarterbacks, and we did not look good, and we got absolutely dominated 37-0 to Maryland. And I remember watching College Game Day the next week. And they were laughing at us saying, we were going to get absolutely smoked this next game by Oklahoma State. And we had absolutely zero chance to win that game. And it seemed like the program was going in the wrong direction. And we were like the laughing stock of college football. But then on one day in Morgantown, on a nice sunny day, Gold Rush, that team found a way to pull out a win versus a number 11 Oklahoma State team, right? And I'll never forget that game because it was Clint Trickett's first game. Kevin White it was his kind of breakout game. And for one day, even through a really tough, tumultuous season, they found a way to win a game at home. Can we do that on Saturday? Can we get a same effort and a similar result that we did there? Because that game was important, and it was even though this team was not good, and even though this team only won 4 games, it was a memory that we'll always have, that ranked win over Oklahoma State. So if this team on Saturday, the point of the flashback is not to look at Clint Trickett and Kevin White and go back to the days that I was in college, but it's a reminder that just because you are bad one week does not necessarily mean you can't improve the next week, right? I think as Mountaineer fans, it's been a tough couple of days. It's been a tough 48 hours. For me, I know it's been hard getting my mind off what I witnessed on Saturday, but if we can somehow bring the energy back to Milan Postcar and get behind this team and start fast on Saturday and somehow win out against Pitt, I think it would be a major redemption for Rich Rodriguez, and people would start looking at West Virginia again. I think it would be a signature win that we've been looking for a long time. We have not had many wins that we're proud about in the last 6 or 7 years, and this is another opportunity on Saturday to get a signature win against a hated rival that we're not going to play for a long time after this. So even though we lost to Ohio, you kind of have to flush it and move on to the next one and get ready for that one. And I think that we can do that. And again, I just want to go back to this game because just because it seems bad one week doesn't necessarily mean the next week is going to be rough. Let's see. Anything else? I think that's it. Again, a short show because I already put out a video today. And most of the questions that I put out were already answered today. So I wanted to come out here and do another one to kind of react to the breaking news today. Again, I appreciate all of you guys out there that have watched JerseyEER. Please remember to like and subscribe to the show. Share it with a friend if you like the content. We'll put out a Pitt preview in the next day or two to kind of get you ready for the backyard brawl. With that being said, I'm JerseyEER. Have a great rest of your night.